Hey, Rick, this is Homestead. How the heck are you? This video is to kind of answer some questions I had from some subscribers about some different things that have been going on out there and what my thoughts are on it. Is why is the sun's position when it rises and sets seems to be changing? And it does. I mean, it will continue. One, we're in a grand solar minimum, which has our orbit around the sun kind of hosed up, which is going to change the position somewhat. But if folks think about, we don't just do an oval around a circle around the sun. It is an elliptical orbit. Points were closer to the sun, points were farther away. The tilt of the Earth has something to do with it. Whether it's a little more to the north, instead of rising in the east, it may be rising a little northeast, and setting instead of in the west, northwest, depending on the tilt of that axis. So those things have an effect. This grand solar minimum that we're going into is also going to have an effect. Not as much solar activity, things of this nature, changes the orbits a little bit, tilts a little bit, the whole shooting match. And plus, the one thing that most people don't think about is that our sun is, shooting through the galaxies. It's on the move all the time. So we're actually kind of on a spiral kind of orbit. We're always catching up to the sun. Okay. And sometimes the sun cannot accelerate us just a little bit, and we catch up. Okay, we're chasing the sun. So yeah, these are some of the things that cause us to see the sun's position. I mean, you're not going to have it suddenly, the sun rises in the north and sets in the south. It's not going to happen. If it does, we're not going to be around to see it. Okay, most probably. But yeah, it's normal Mother Nature. It's all part of the we're, like I said, we're into a grand solar minimum. That's going to change it out a little bit, and the fact that because of the little deviation in the orbit of the Earth around the sun, here we go. We get this spiral changes so that we can keep up with it. Because yeah, if you really look at it, if you track our path as far as the planet goes, because you got to figure the sun is always moving. It's going away from us. We're always catching up to it, being dragged behind it. And it causes us to have a spiral kind of orbit. So yeah, it's kind of wild when you really look at it. Nothing to fret about. It's going to change some. And as we get through the grand solar minimums and all that, then you're going to see a little bit more normal. And weather and nature changes over lifetimes. So if you live long enough, you begin to go, things have sure changed. And yeah, they have. Okay. That's why you have a lot of people in their 30s with their hands on their hips going, it's never been like this. No, it hasn't, but talk to your grandparents, okay? It is what it is. It's nature. So with that being said, you kind of go from there. So that's nothing to worry about. It has a little bit to do with this grand solar minimum. And, because of the way the sun's reacting and so forth right now, it may have picked up a little speed, which is causing us to pick up a little speed. And, here you go. But in the long run, it's not going to mean a lot to us. Usually during these grand solar minimums, our orbit around the sun changes enough to where and because there's not as much solar energy being put out, we have to be careful that we don't, it changes the gravitational pull on planet Earth. That's number one. And because of that changed gravitational pull, historically, it has had a lot to do with increased earthquake activity and increased volcanic activity on the planet. In our past, the increased volcanic activity could cause some additional cooling on the planet, which in turn leads to more volcanic activity because the weight of the ice that's forming on the crust is actually putting pressure on the mantle. It's crazy. It's off chain reaction. But it's nature, you know. So that's how we end up having many ice ages, and you know, this, they're saying at least once and probably twice we've turned into this big snowball floating around out here in space. So yeah, it can get bad, depending on how it affects the mantle of the planet. And that's what that's usually caused by, is the gravitational pull of the sun changes, or orbit changes a little bit. And that change, I mean, you got to kind of figure, we got like a liquid core in there of melted rock and iron and so forth, kind of sloshes around. And when you get a change in the pull on the planet, it can put additional pressure and look for weak spots. So that's what it is. And let's cross our fingers we get through this thing without any kind of major ice age. We are going to see some weather changes. It's not due to global warming or driving cars or anything of that sort. It is just going to be because of, you know, nature's way. You know, it's as we lose solar heating, we cool off, and this planet has a history of it. Matter of fact, we're, you know, when you think about it for 30 seconds and go back and look at like ice core samples and things of this nature, we are usually cooler more than we are warm. So if you think about it a bit in that aspect, we just came out of a warming period, and that's where we're starting to cool down now. That warming periods are pretty brief, okay? The downhill slope to cooling is usually just a march to the bottom. Then you bounce around the bottom here a little bit and you'll start warming back up again, you know. But yeah, this is just normal nature. You know, none of us know, and I don't care how much these scientists want to say, oh, well, it's going to do this and it's going to do that. Their answers based upon all that sort of stuff is, it'll do this as long as this, and this doesn't happen. If this, and this starts happening, it's a whole different ballgame. Okay? So nobody knows for sure. Not really. Okay. Hey, I have ran across this in horse manure. I've ran across it in cow manure. Okay, Grazon is basically not good stuff for if you're composting anything, okay? Because you would need that compost to set a minimum of 2 years before you're going to be able to grow anything, any kind of a broadleaf plant in it. It's done. It is. Grazon is a it's really a 2,4-D based herbicide. That has been kind of diluted down enough to where animals can graze back on it shortly without any real big side effects. Although I have seen some research that, yeah, you know, it does affect the meat. They say it passes through, but you're depending upon these manufacturers that turn this stuff out. So research. And there has been a little research done going, we've seen it in them as many as long as 4 and 5 years, residues in the meat. Yeah. So the best advice is to find somebody who's growing organic hay. Now, organic hay is going to be pretty like the other stuff, you know, just blades of grass and perfect. No, it's not. You're going to have some stimmy stuff and some briars maybe even. You got to kind of pick and choose through it. I mean, if they've been doing a relatively decent job of maintaining their hay fields, holding down the weeds and briars and things of this nature, you can have pretty good hay. But yeah, that manure, I don't like to feed cattle, any livestock, anything with the Grazon's been used on it, basically because it is a 2,4-D based herbicide. Not good. But if you do feed it and you want to take that risk of having some of that residue left in your meat, don't use that manure for, yeah. I myself wouldn't use it for, 3 to 4 years, but they say 2. Okay. But I would question that. I might sample it at 2 years and, do a couple of pots up with it and see how your tomato plant does. But yeah, Grazon definitely will take out any broadleaf plants you put in there. Okay. So, and depending on how much residue is there, it can, do minimal damage to the plant, stun its growth. You don't have as good a production, or it can just wither it right there on the spot and kill it. So be careful of where you're getting your compost from. Okay. Like I said, I'd done one little deal on where this lady had bought a bunch of horse manure, and this stuff had sat for quite a while. Yeah. And it was still hot, too hot to put a plant in because they used Grazon on it. Or they might have even used Roundup, but I'm guessing since it was coming through the hay, it was probably Grazon. It's common. It is extremely common. Now, the guy that owns the hayfield across from me, he doesn't treat his with Grazon. Okay. He grows pretty decent hay. But, he has to get out there and bush hog, reseed, and all this sort of stuff to get it up right, and to maintain some weed control. But yeah, be careful of the Grazon. Figure probably 90% of all hay producers use it, so that can tell you how much of it's out there. And the problem is if somebody's got, let's say, horses, cattle, whatever, and they're feeding hay to them, and they're not up on the Grazons and so forth, they may inadvertently have compost sitting there that is not good for your gardens. Like I said, I did that one video where I put up that it was a video done up to where the lady lost a lot of production out of her farm because she put down about on a quarter of her acres some horse manure. It was compost, and this stuff had apparently herbicide in it. All of her broadleaf plants croaked on her. So be careful with it. It is an ongoing problem. If you stick with organic, and there are guys out there that grow organic hay. They're out there. But yeah, and like I said, I have seen research on both sides of the coin as far as how fast it gets out of your meat. And I'd just stay away from stuff altogether. Just kind of thanks but no thanks and walk away. But you can find organic growers that do produce organic hay. Yeah. And yeah, it usually costs a little more because it's more labor intensive and so forth, but it's better for your animals and it's better for your, composting if you're using manure for composting. But you'll see that all the time. They'll be out there just fill up that manure spreader and go spread it all over their farms. And, there's a very strong possibility if you've been buying any hay with Grazon, you're going to have pathetic crops. There you go. So yeah, be careful with it. Seriously, be careful with it. And you don't want stuff in your food. Okay. 2,4-D is not good. Period. Okay. And Grazon is a derivative of 2,4-D herbicide. Okay. So that takes care of the two biggies I had, really. Hope you folks are having a good week. Yeah. Been dealing a lot with, and let me throw this in there. Been dealing a lot with what's going on out there in society right now. I ran across a journalist who is basically saying if you're a conservative, you might need to go to a re-education camp. Yeah, are you serious? Saying that's the only way they're going to get society straightened out. Yeah. Bet you didn't know about that, huh? My fear is, folks, is a lot of places, well, look at history. Adolf Hitler, a lot of people thought was all talk. Okay. Stalin and Mao, a lot of people thought was all talk. No way somebody could do something like that. But yeah, they really are. Getting to the polls this year is going to be more important than you possibly know. Possibly know. For you, those of you who don't like to watch television and haven't really been following the news, literally, we have Democrats talking stuff like defunding police departments and things of this nature. I mean, it's just pure craziness. Riots going on. And we had some riots here. They had some in Memphis and Nashville. And this last one that I just put up covers some of that. But at least we live in a reasonable state that has a legislative branch and a governor that's got a head on their shoulders, and they kind of responded with, not here you're doing this, and kind of clamped down on the whole mess. But watch put your ear to the ground out there, folks, and be prepared that it could get crazy. I think if we turn this government over to these liberals, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem. Because when that kind of talk starts, you're talking about sending people off to concentration camps, because our re-education camps wouldn't surely be concentration camps, right? No. But when you're sending people off to be re-educated because they have conservative ideas, that's scary talk right there. Okay, that's where we better perk up our ears and start going, wait a minute, kids. Okay, so hopefully it doesn't get like that. Definitely get out there and get people to vote, because if you sit at home, we could wake up after this election and find we're living in a whole different world. Okay, a whole different world. I'm beginning to think these liberals have gone a little nuts. Really have. The more I follow the news and stuff, which is really I hate doing, but the more I look at it, the more concerned I get. There's a lot of serious talk going on here. I mean, ripping down statues of people like Thomas Jefferson. I'm sorry. So somewhere you got to go, that's enough. And I guess I'm most saddened by, I think we're seeing the opportunity to put this country back together peacefully, rapidly disappearing. And the other option's not very good, it's just not good. But it's looking like we're getting too radicalized, okay? Getting radicalized to the left and the right to the point that it's just, there's no common ground, there's no conversation left. And, no, throw me some comments down there, let me know what you guys think. I'm looking for an idea for peaceful resolution, but I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it. how do you reason with somebody who wants to be completely unreasonable? Yeah. And won't listen to any sense, anything you have to say. You know, you're racist and you're this and you're that. Yeah. How do you communicate on that kind of level? I don't know. I'm kind of scratching my head on that one a little bit. But I know you got groups out here preparing for it. I know we've got some groups here that are getting a lot of these small towns and things of this nature prepared for working on things like their defense systems and so forth. Yeah, that's gearing up for war at that point. Okay, when you shift it over from just general training and prepping and things of this nature to actually how are you going to secure your city? Let's come out, take a look, see what bridges need to be destroyed to keep people from crossing into your areas, things of that nature. That's getting pretty radical. And when I see what's normally fairly conservative individuals starting to look at radical options, tells me we're teetering on an edge we might want to go over. Let me hear your thoughts on it. I'm really kind of curious of what you guys think. Maybe I've been looking at the news too much. Yeah. Whew, bad. So anyway, let me know what you think. I'll let this thing go this short, and I got some editing to do tonight, so yeah. Kind of scary though, folks, so let's maybe put our heads together and come up with a way to fix this. Every time I think I see a ray of hope, it just kind of flutters off into the sunset. And yeah, we got to find a way to at least keep it around till I'm gone. Come on now. I'm getting too old for that kind of stuff. All right? I think a lot of us are. Just let me live my life in peace, kind of thing. And it's just, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I will say that I'm very impressed with our Governor Lee here in last name of Lee. Well, somebody can wrap a rope on around that man and carry him off his pedestal. He's done a pretty good job. There's a politician that has my respect. He's really not played any games with all this. So, and I think if this wasn't 2020 and an election year, which I think is what a lot of this is all about, okay? A lot of it is about that. Donald Trump couldn't do anything. If the Lord himself come down here and put his arm around that man's neck and said he's the best thing since sliced bread, I can guarantee you that's been it some other way. I am absolutely amazed. Absolutely amazed. Lord, I even gave Barack Obama a few kudos on some of the things he did. Not much, because I didn't agree with him on a lot. But when we did agree, and I thought he did something good, I'd at least say it, There's nothing that man can do. Nothing that man can do that these lefties are going to be happy with, It's sad. Sad state of affairs in this country. Alrighty, love you guys, appreciate you. I hope you're having a good week, and we will talk to you later. Take care.